Welcome into Pallilo Points. I'm Brandon Strange of Sports Map Houston. He is Charlie Pallilo of ESPN 97.5, 92.5. And if you haven't yet, please hit subscribe on this channel. We really do appreciate it. Charlie, want to talk some baseball with you because Yordan Alvarez continues to hit the cover off the baseball right now. Third overall in batting average. In the past, we talked about Yordan on this channel, and you've been pretty measured in your praise of Yordan. The comp that you offered for him about him was Willie McCovey. You said that's who you kind of saw as his upside. And over the past few days, we've seen some stats on the broadcast comparing him to Ted Williams, Albert Pujols, the latter of which he's actually ahead of the pace. So I'm wondering, Charlie, 34 games in, what you're seeing. Are you a believer in Yordan, and do you think he has room to improve once he starts getting respect from the umps?
Boy, tough to improve upon 362, the batting average at which he entered the week. But his plate discipline actually hasn't been all that great so far this season, with only 4 walks. Now, he missed the handful of games with the COVID setback, but only 4 walks drawn in his first 114 some odd plate appearances, a much lower rate than during his rookie season of 2019. And things figure to normalize over still the longer haul of the season. About 4/5 of it still remain to be played, but he just has a look of a savant, a prodigy, a damn good hitter. McCovey was never a guy who hit well into the 300s. Big Papi David Ortiz, at his very best, did go up well into the 300s. The McCovey comp was for a guy who was playing left field. Maybe he'd moved to first base, a tall, lanky lefty, filled out, but still a little on the lanky side, who also wore the number 44, Stretch McCovey, that Yordan wears. But the high average ability, the plate coverage. Now, he strikes out a good amount of the time, but all kinds of great hitters in this era do that. Mike Trout strikes out by the truckload as well. So to me, the only long-term question, even at this still very early stage with Yordan, it's not about the hit tool. He has that. Left-handed pitchers have not shackled him. It's the health, that he's had multiple knee problems at 23, but hitting this great, even for only 115 games or so, that he appears to be cast to me as a career designated hitter. That's okay if you have the capability to be an all-time slugger and you can figure out how to align left field post Brantley, first base post Gurriel with somebody else.
No doubt. And another guy, and his teammate actually, that's had some health concerns as well, has been a guy, Carlos Correa. If this is somewhat what we can expect from Alvarez, I mean, I can't imagine he's going to hit 360 forever, but does this make free agent Carlos Correa that much more expendable?
It does, particularly because qualitatively, Carlos Correa, and again, just 1/5 of the season, but Correa's been an epically mediocre player so far this season. 2 of the last 3 seasons, he was mediocre to below average in the universe of Major League Baseball players. Right? Correa's tools are unquestioned. His performance is questionable. He was benched on Sunday, not because he needed another day's rest, but because he was 1 for 27 with 1 walk the prior week. Now, excellent hitters can go into funks. Jose Altuve's done it. Yordan Alvarez will do it. But Correa does not have a resume that approaches those of Altuve, of Alex Bregman. Yordan in a very small sample size, but his 114 games best of baseball, which in Yordan's case is the entirety of his big league career, is better than any season that Carlos Correa has put up. Correa only has 1 good, healthy, full season on his resume. That was in 2016, and he was damn good. 2017, he was actually a rival to Altuve and I guess Aaron Judge in the MVP race if he'd maintained what he was doing, but he wound up missing a third of the season healthy. Right? Availability, the critical ability, along with actual ability. Carlos Correa, 5 years, $125 million right now. That would be very high as opposed to the very low at which he categorized it.
With this being the first year that fans can attend games in person since the sign-stealing story broke, the media's coverage of the Astros has been almost exclusively about them getting booed and paying their penance. If Yordan stays on this tear, and let's say, just for the sake of argument, he finished the season as the inarguable best player in baseball, at least from an offensive standpoint, which is to be fair, a very serious presumption considering a guy named Mike Trout still plays baseball. Would the baseball writers allow Alvarez, or really any Astro, to win an MVP at this point?
I don't think Yordan would be punished if he's a head and shoulders guy, because he was on the 2019 team, and I get it, Altuve, the buzzer nonsense, and if there was more, but there was no finding from Major League Baseball involving 2019, and Alvarez in 2017 was not on the scene, right? Josh Fields was on the scene. What a trade. 2018, Yordan Alvarez, nothing to do with it. I think as a DH, it's extra tough to win MVP, and he might not get the benefit of the doubt call. It's also unlikely that he'll just lap the field with his offensive numbers. But as a guy who will be extremely cheap for the Astros for another year as well, he and Bregman, those are the centerpieces of this lineup the Astros can reasonably hope when we're talking 2030. Right? Bregman will be to his mid-30s, but Yordan will be 32, 33 years old. And the Astros, as they budget mid and long term, especially if Correa is not remotely close to being your best player, being worth 25, 30 million per year, to do it for 6 or 8 years, right? Yordan's time will come. Altuve's on the books for 3 more years after this. Bregman, 3 more years after this, but Bregman will only be 29, turning 30 when his bite at the free agent apple. You can't pay them all. But Correa, as a baseball player, if this is the 3rd season in 4 that he's just not all that good, what he did in the 2020 postseason does not carry the day, and either his price drops precipitously, and maybe that's across Major League Baseball that makes him a little more viable for the Astros to keep, or the Astros will usher him out the door, a la George Springer.
Josh Fields on pace to become the new Larry Anderson, I guess, in Houston, or at least for those that remember that trade, perhaps. But I would say Yordan maybe with the higher upside than Jeff Bagwell. That's saying a lot.
Think about
that's saying a lot.
Purely in the batter's box, right?
Yes.
Jeff Bagwell, 297 career hitter, 408 on base percentage, 540 slugging. And Yordan, it's not a pipe dream to think that he could top all those 3 numbers. But the long-term durability, which until Bagwell's shoulder gave out, he played 160 games nearly every year for the better part of 15 years. And that's how he got to 449 home runs and more than 1,500 runs scored and 1,500 runs batted in. Just as while Jose Altuve's best baseball, better than Craig Biggio's best baseball, well, if we're rating Altuve and Biggio, Altuve's 2 best seasons, hands down the best 2, well, the next best 3 are probably Craig Biggio seasons. And Biggio played very viably through his mid-30s. That's how you get to 3,070 hits. Altuve has a lot of heavy lifting to do to track down Biggio on those types of lists. Yordan, of course, is a mere babe tracking Bagwell, but that should be a lot of fun for the next decade or so around here.